Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My respectful pranams to revered Swami Gautamanji Maharaj, to all the monks here, and greetings to all the students and others in the audience. Since morning we have been hearing about the activities or services rendered by Ramakrishna Mission. Particularly we have heard about how both health services and in general how the Ramakrishna Mission service ideal has been carried out in last 125 years. I have been asked to say a few things, give an idea about the educational services of the Ramakrishna Mission. So if you carefully take this word, it is not just an activity, it's a service. It's a service being done to the society, to the people, in the form of so many different things. Be it, as Revered Atmashraddhananda Maharaj in the morning mentioned, be it Annadanam or Pranadanam or Vidyadanam or Jnanadanam. So Vidyadanam, or giving secular knowledge, is a service. Very ancient. It is there in India for such a long time, right from the beginning. We have the Gurukula system, we know in the ancient Vedic time. And again, we have also the famous statement from Mundaka Upanishad, Dve Vidye Veditavye Paracha Paracha. Two types of education or two types of knowledge are there. Knowledge of the secular word or objective word, and knowledge or vidya of the internal word, which is spiritual word. So combining these two, both vidya of external and internal word, we have the educational work of the Ramakrishna Mission. All of these things are somewhere they centered around Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda and Ma Sarada. It is from there, that central point, that all these services get reflected. They bring out the message which they have all taught us. When Swami Vivekananda went to the West, he made an observation later on. He said, education, education, education alone, traveling through many cities of Europe and observing in them the comforts and education of even the poor people, there was brought into my mind the state of our own poor people, and I used to shed tears. What made the difference? Education was the answer I got. So Swami Vivekananda thought about education in a very serious and very broad way right from the beginning. We know when he was going around the country as a Parivrajaka monk, he observed the state of affairs as it was then. I need not go into details. We all have our lessons in history. We have known how India was at that time. And Swamiji very carefully observed the need for education. When he meditated at the famous rock, now called Vivekananda Rock, in Kanyakumari, there also he was thinking that only giving spiritual knowledge without secular knowledge actually doesn't work. It is there that afterwards he wrote, after his 3 days of meditation there in 1892 in December, later on he wrote that sitting on the last bit of Indian rock I thought over. I said it is a madness only to give spiritual knowledge and not giving the secular knowledge. He says, we are so many monks, Swami Vivekananda said, we are so many monks, why not we take some maps, some lantern and show to people basic general knowledge as we call it today. because he had seen such extreme ignorance, with such great spiritual heritage of the people, with great character, at the same time so much of poverty, persecution, and he said that the only way to come out of it is education. So Swami Vivekananda started about it, what we call as now the work of the Ramakrishna Mission, years ago. In Swami Vivekananda, we also find that he had some very original contributions to make as far as education is concerned. Those of you know, those who study B.Ed or those who have done some course in education, they know we generally we read about some educationists or educational philosophies. And these, we were not finding a place for Swamiji in this list of educationists earlier, thanks to the effort made by Revered Swami Prabhanandaji Maharaj, who was one of our Vice President Maharaj, who passed away recently. Revered Maharaj wrote a beautiful monologue and also met the UNESCO people, and it was Swami Vivekananda, an educationist par excellence, and made them aware of what deep thinking Swamiji had about education. How is education of head, heart and hands, which means a complete education, how it finds a place, how he derived his ideas, how Swami Vivekananda's educational ideas are derived from the Upanishads, from his own master's teachings, and for his great love for India. So ever since then, now UNESCO also recognizes Swamiji as an educationist along with Sri Aurobindo and Tagore, who are the other two educationists. So Swamiji's ideas about education, I'm not going details of that. We'll just mention that Swamiji mentioned, when he speaks about education, he says, famous definition is, education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. I remember years ago one gentleman had come to our Vivekananda study circle in IIT Madras. He was also an engineer by training and elderly person. He said, when I was young, I was studying in BITS Pilani, and it used to strike me, what is education? Because he had seen certain things which made him think very deeply. And he said, I had studied different educationists in my own personal journey of what is education, and I read different Western authors. It did not satisfy me. Only when I came to Swami Vivekananda, and when I read this statement that education is the manifestation of perfection already in man, and how education is not just hearing and accumulation of knowledge or facts, but something what we call as assimilation of ideas, that gave me satisfaction. This is what education should be. So, what is education? Swami Vivekananda asks. He says, is it book learning? No. Is it diverse knowledge? Not even that. The training by which the current and expression of will are brought under control and become fruitful is called education. Another place Swami Vivekananda says, to me the very essence of education is concentration of mind. So we must learn to concentrate, to focus our mind. Not only concentrate and focus. In today's world, of course, it is very important given the kind of distractions our cell phones cause us or the social media bring to us. Not only that, we should also be able to withdraw the mind. Not only be able to concentrate and dedicate and become one with the subject, we should be able to come out of it also. Swamiji says, concentration and detachment, they are the most important part of learning in education. Now, keeping these ideas in mind, let us try to understand the work, the educational work of Ramakrishna Mission. When did it start? Right, as I said, in 1892 when Swamiji meditated in the famous Kanyakumari rock. Since then it is in a way going on. When Swami Vivekananda was in the last day of his earthly journey in Belur Math, when he was there, that day also he was speaking about opening a Sanskrit school, a Veda Vidyalaya, to remove the superstition and to how to teach people about the essential knowledge of the Upanishads. Of course, by God's grace, about 25 years back, the Belur Math now has got that Veda Vidyalaya, and it tries to bring in all those things which Swamiji has tried to put. But besides that, Swamiji had a brother disciple, Swami Akhandanandaji. When he was in Rajputana in Rajasthan, there he saw the state of education and he started a number of schools, primary and other schools, for the benefit of the people there. So that's the beginning. Later again in Devghar, now it is in Jharkhand, earlier Bihar. In Devghar, an educational institution was started. Later on, if you trace the chronology of events or chronology of institutions that Ramakrishna Mission runs, in last 100 years, many institutions have come up. Right here in Tamil Nadu, we have the famous institution, the Students' Home is there, which is more than 100 years old. And you have the Coimbatore Vidyalaya, which started in 1930s. Now it's a large complex of activities. And again, you have got in Mysore a Ramakrishna Vidyashala, which is a residential school. Or you go to the famous Narendrapur complex in Kolkata. That too has contributed so much for the cause of education, and Ramakrishna Mission is well known for these institutions. Because the kind of education that is given or imparted in these institutions has touched the lives of many people. How do we know this? You ask many of the old students who have studied in these schools. They feel very much connected, and some of them, when they grow up, when they are into life and they have their own families, they want their children to go to the same school in which they have studied. Which means that pays a great tribute to the education which they have received. So educational work of the Ramakrishna Mission, we can say, we can also put it this way, that there are so many types of education which the mission imparts. If we say, take it this way, there are schools run by the mission. According to the general report published by Belur Math every year, Belur Math publishes a general report which gives a overall picture of whatever we are discussing now, or we will discuss in further later this day, or even more which is not discussed here also. It will give you a comprehensive picture of the Ramakrishna Mission's activities, which is published every year, and it is also, it gives a picture, as an idea, a comprehensive feeling of how these great personalities, the great people like Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and Ma Sarada, how they have in their message has got manifested in all these ways. I remember Swami Tapasyanji mentioning in one of his writings, Tapasyanji was here for a very long time, and we all the devotees know it, the students may not know. He used to say it is the individual that becomes the institution. So it is the individual, the great individuals called Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda or Ma Sarada, which have become these institutions. So if you take what kind of educational work the mission does, we say schools. So in the annual report, it says we have number of schools, and maybe all the institutions, if you put together, run by the Ramakrishna Mission of various categories. If you take, what are those categories, I will just mention. It will come to more than 700 institutions are there. First of all, as revered Atmashraddhananda Maharaj mentioned, we have the deemed university, Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Educational Research Institute, RKM, which started around 20 years back. That was a great dream of Swami Vivekananda. Its central office or central building or central place of functioning is Belur Math. That's where Swamiji had envisaged it. But it has got the number of other campuses, like in Ranchi, and it has gone Coimbatore and elsewhere. So there also this university is working. Recently they held their convocation also. Then we have Medical Science Institute and Research Centers. We have two of them. One is in Uttar Pradesh, in Lucknow. We have a large hospital there. And attached to that, we have an institution connected with that. And in West Bengal, we have the famous hospital, which was mentioned by Vimukshanji Maharaj. That is Shishu Mangal, which is now mentioned as Seva Pratishthan. They have got a medical institute. Then you have colleges. In Tamil Nadu, we have Vivekananda College students here. We have the Chennai Vidyapith and Coimbatore Mission. And in West Bengal, it is Sarada Devi and Kolkata. That is Narendrapur and Howrah, these two places in Kolkata. We have got colleges. Further, we have B.Ed colleges. Like in Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Kerala, we have number of these colleges where B.Ed education is given. There are also nursing schools and colleges. There are around 4 or 5 states we have these. And schools. Number of states have got these schools. If you say higher secondary schools, class 11 and 12, the Ramakrishna Mission runs almost 12 of them. And secondary schools, which are also put together, there are various states like Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Bihar. I'm just reading out a few, not all the data. West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. I think Tamil Nadu and West Bengal have got the maximum number of educational institutions. There are also junior high middle school classes, and there are kindergartens, not only university, but in kindergarten also. So from kindergarten to the university, a number of institutions that are run. Then there are other schools, like I have come from Kanpur. The Kanpur Ashram also has got a school, class 6 to class 10. It is running since 1947. Though it's a small school, it has its own reputation, its own working. Then there are also primary teachers training institutes, industrial vocational training institutes, institutes for Vedas and Sanskrit, that is Belur, we have that. And also we have a Sanskrit college in Pala, which is in Kerala. And Institute for Imparting Rural and Tribal Education. After me, Swami Mangalnathanji will be speaking. He'll speak in details about the tribal institutes that the mission runs. And there is also School of Languages, one in Hyderabad Mutt and another in Institute of Culture. Besides mentioning this formal education that the mission has, we also have hostels. Number of the institutions are having hostels. And Chennai also. That's very important. It is in our Illam we have Vivekananda Youth Development Institute. Cultural sense. Then we have number of hostels run by different either schools or the ashramas. Now if you expand the idea of education further, it is not only running school, which is important, formal education and getting a degree. We also need libraries. Nearly all the centers in India, we have libraries, public libraries. Here in Chennai Mutt, we have a public library where people can. We also have where you can take only the textbooks. The textbook section is there. The students are supported through textbooks, not only general library. So such libraries and such students things or reading rooms where students can come and read. In Delhi we have a beautiful library and reading room. In Kanpur we have, in Allahabad we have, in Pune we have, in some many other centers, and these are very useful, particularly for those students who find it very difficult to study at home for various reasons. Atmosphere is not there, too many distractions are there. So libraries itself, we have many. Added to that, we have the Institute of Human Excellence, where we have human excellence like developing faith in oneself, concentration, because that also in the total vision of education, we need to develop that. Not only in Hyderabad, we also have in Gujarat, that's also in Rajkot Ashrama, we have got an Institute of Human Excellence, which is quite popular, which brings hundreds and thousands of students in contact with Ramakrishna Mission and its philosophy, and they benefit from it in various ways. They say we were losing faith in ourselves, or we had developed some kind of a depression, or we are not able to concentrate on our studies. Then we go to these institutions. Here itself, we have the Youth Excellence Institute here in the Mutt. There are youth activities there. Besides this, there's another section which I must mention before I close. That is the activity for last 15-20 years which has been going on. We call it GAP, Gadadhar Abhyuday Prakalpa. In Gadadhar Abhyuday Prakalpa, little children between the class 1 and 5, there are 40 to 50 such units across India, where little children who come from economically very backward backgrounds, they are given a support system. So they come in the evenings. First they are taught some basic things like where do you leave chappal, how you stand up, how you come inside. Because they are maybe too very poor in the house, there will be nobody who has studied or nobody is there to support them. So they learn first some prayers, then some teachers give them some tuitions, how to do homework, how to improve their writing skills, etc. And then some bhajans are also taught and some snacks are given. Such activity which is touching another section of the society, that is also very popular. In many centers we have these GAP activity. Besides, you also have the Sunday schools where the children come, they are taught the cultural activities. They learn how to chant and sing, they listen to stories of Ramakrishna-Vivekananda. Through that so much of learning happens, unknown to themselves. They are learning some higher values. So if you take education in a very sweeping perspective, you have the Ramakrishna missions, a comprehensive look, how both head, heart and hands, which means you learn to feel for others, you learn to think, and you learn to work for others in a very excellent way, that the way of excellence that is being taught. Finally, I must mention that it is Swami Vivekananda's educational philosophy which is guiding the mission, and which the various centers of the Ramakrishna Mission are trying to put in their own way into practice. There is one thing which we must remember, Swamiji laid a lot of emphasis, that is, we need man-making education. He called his education as man-making education, that is, making of a complete human being, not just creating a certificate and giving them, which deals with only their brain and their IQ. What about the other faculties of human being? So there is another one activity which happens in many of our centers, which is called personality development activity, where camps are held or regular classes are held. In many of our centers this is done. So we owe a lot to all these activities to the educational vision of Swami Vivekananda, who said education is not the amount of information that is put into your brain and runs right there, undigested all your life. Swamiji said we must have life-building, man-making, character-making assimilation of ideas. If you have assimilated 5 ideas, see how generous. Swamiji is not saying you have to memorize 100 ideas. He says just 5 ideas, listen to them and try to put them into practice, assimilate 5 ideas and made them your life and character. You have more education than a man who has got by heart a whole library. Thank you.